Hi everybody, this is Jimmy DeYoung. Welcome to Prophecy Today video. We have a very special program looking at what the Obama administration is telling the Jewish people in Israel about what needs to be done with the land that God gave to them. Stay right here with us because you'll want to hear more about this story. This week, Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas met at the White House with President Obama. When Abbas went into the meeting, he was pushing the Saudi peace plan, which is different than the roadmap to peace, and it's calling for the Jewish people to give up land all the way back to the pre-67 borders. That was the time of the Six-Day War, remember, when the Israelis were able to get some buffer zones from the nations that had been attacking them. Also, President Abbas wants the Obama administration to put pressure on Israel to stop all construction in the Jewish settlements and, in fact, to evacuate the Jewish settlements. In fact, President Obama, after the meeting at the White House with Abbas, said he demands that the Jewish settlement construction be stopped, and they're going to be demanding very quickly that they evacuate these Jewish settlements so there can be peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians. Well, because of that, the rabbis went to Judea and Samaria. That's sometimes referred to as the West Bank, not a good term, but in Judea and Samaria, the rabbis rejected the Obama plan for the Jewish settlements and vowed not to give up one piece of real estate out there in this God-given land. Let's get more on this from David Dolan. He's our representative in Jerusalem. David, talk to us about the White House meeting and the statements on the Jewish settlements.
There's never been a state called Palestine, and there's never been a president of such a state. What he is the president of the Palestinian Authority, which is a system that was set up as a result of the Oslo Peace Accords, where he does have some governing authority over portions of Judea and Samaria, not the entire thing, but it was a courtesy for President Obama to meet with him, and certainly the United States would like to see the Palestinian Authority strengthened, and Israel would as well. But it doesn't seem to me there's a lot they can do until the radical movements and their main sponsor, Iran, are dealt with. If Palestinian groups and organizations and political movements were really ready for peace, then Israel might be ready the chance of setting up a state if there was that evidence. But there isn't that evidence. Again, what happened? Israel withdrew from the Gaza Strip, and what happened? They used it as a launching pad for rocket attacks on nearby communities. So this has been the reality of Israel's experience with handing land over to the Palestinians. Given that that's history, that's fact, they're not about to take the risk of withdrawing from next door to Jerusalem and a part of Jerusalem, etc. At this stage. They just don't trust the Palestinian people at this stage to really make peace.
Rob Congdon covers the European Union, and the European Union is getting pretty active on these Jewish settlements as well, plus the two-state solution, etc. Rob, there is an understanding that the European Union member states are going to have a meeting and set conditions on how they're going to be able to have a relationship with Israel, and some of the focus is on the Jewish settlements. Talk to us about that.
What you need to understand in the EU is you're really seeing a reflection of the current presidency, which is the Czech Republic, of the EU, because they're anti-Israel, or he is, I should say, the president, so that there's that influence. You have other countries that are critical of Israel's handling of Gaza in particular, and remember, for Europeans, anything with war bothers them. It's really an upsetting type situation, and added to the media which they see, the vast media coverage is against Israel and what it did in Gaza. And so I think they're reflecting kind of the people's opinions that have been influenced by the media. You do have governments that are favorable to Israel. The big issue is, do they upgrade relations with Israel? Did they move closer toward Israel and eventual membership? And that's really the heart of this issue. You've got countries like France and Germany and the UK that tend to favor Israel. They're just struggling with this current populist opinion that Israel is the aggressor in Gaza.
Steve Herzig is a man who is the national director for the Friends of Israel, has written an excellent book on the culture and customs of the Jewish people. We have them available at our website, prophecytoday.com, or you can call our toll-free number, 877-674-3298. But I want Steve to talk to us about the Jewish holy day of Shvuot, which is Pentecost, or the Feast of Weeks.
Well, the Feast of Weeks is an agricultural holiday, and it's certainly different today for Jewish people than it was in biblical times. It is actually the counting of the first Sabbath after Passover, a counting of 50 days, and from that Sabbath after the Passover is the Feast of Shvuot. Actually, there are two first fruits. First fruits of the barley would be taking place during the time of unleavened bread, and then Shvuot is the feast or the harvesting or first fruits of the wheat. So you have the barley and then the wheat. There's 50 days that separate that.
It is a tradition in the Jewish world that this is the time when God gave the law to Moses on Mount Sinai 3,500 years ago.
There is nothing in the Bible that says that, but these agricultural holidays are very difficult for Jewish people to celebrate, and in fact, Shavuot is really mostly celebrated by the Orthodox Jewish people. What was instituted as a tradition by the rabbis is the giving of the law, and everything in modern Judaism centers on the giving of the law. They stay up all night reading the Torah. They also put honey on tablets, which remind them of the Ten Commandments, and they have their little kids eat the honey because the sweetness of the word. So we can look at our Orthodox friends who celebrate it and certainly rejoice with them on the high regard that they have for Scripture and the importance of studying it. But it truly does not really have to relate to anything biblical as it relates to Shavuot.
Well, our reporters, David Dolan, Rob Congdon, and Steve Herzig, talking about the situation with the Obama administration putting pressure on Israel to stop all construction in the Jewish settlements and, in fact, to evacuate these Jewish settlements. As I take a look at the book here, when we've tried to put a prophetic perspective on all that you've already heard, we need to think about what is going on. What does the Bible say about all of this? Well, let's think about the land. In the book of Leviticus, chapter 25 and verse 23, it says, "The land is God's land." In fact, as you read through chapter 25 of Leviticus, you'll understand that God has selected the Jewish people to be the caretakers of this land. It is a land that God promised in the Abrahamic covenant to give to all of the Jewish people. Genesis chapter 15 tells us that the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the Jewish people of today, will receive a piece of real estate to live on forever and ever. And the truth be known, it is 10 times what they have today. It would include half of Egypt, all of Israel, all of Jordan, all of Syria. It would include 3/4 of Iraq, all of Kuwait, and 3/4 of Saudi Arabia. You can maybe better understand the problem in the Middle East right now, but the land covenant, along with the Abrahamic covenant, guarantee that is the case. By the way, the land covenant, Deuteronomy chapter 30 says it's an unconditional covenant. All the Jewish people must do is abide by what God tells them to do. He would be their God. They would be his people. Prophetically, in the book of Ezekiel chapter 34, God says 18 times, I will find the Jews where they have been scattered. I will bring them back into their land that I promised to give them. Ezekiel chapter 36, 35 times refers to the land. And God says in chapter 36, verse 22, the reason I'm going to give this land to the Jewish people is because of my holy name's sake. When he could swear by nothing greater, he swore by his name that he would give the land. But if you look at the prophecies in Ezekiel chapters 35 and 38, you'll find out that the Palestinian people, chapter 35 of Ezekiel, and an alignment of Arab and Muslim nations, chapter 38 of Ezekiel, will in the last days come and try to take the land away from the Jewish people. That stage is being set. Everything we've talked about here on Prophecy Today video, as it relates to current events, would be indication, evidence that the stage is being set for these Bible prophecies to be fulfilled. But just remember this, before all of these prophecies are fulfilled, the rapture of the church takes place. Jesus shouts, archangel shouts, trump of God sounds, and we're caught up to be with him in the air. And that, my friend, is a great blessed promise. In fact, that rapture could happen at any moment. And having said that, there's nothing left for me to say, except let's keep looking up until